Hello students, I welcome in the video number 1 of the topic pharmaceuticals. This topic pharmaceutical belongs to paper number 14 of semester 6. So under this topic pharmaceuticals, we are going to discuss some points. The first point is introduction about the pharmaceuticals. The second point is classification of pharmaceuticals. The third point is qualities of ideal drug. Fourth point is synthesis and uses of some drugs. And last point is the drug action of sulfa drugs. So before starting this topic, let's discuss over the scope and application of this topic titled as pharmaceuticals. Now what is the scope of this topic? So actually the exam pattern is uncertain. The exam pattern may be of MCQ type or it may be of descriptive type, but here I am covering the overall scope of this pharmaceuticals by considering both the patterns. So objective questions, MCQs will be there on every point on this topic. So you have to study this topic in detail and you have to read each and every sentence of this topic carefully. Secondly, long answer questions may be asked on classification. Third, short answer questions can be asked on the synthesis and uses of any drug. The another scope of this topic from the exam point of view is that short note may be asked on the mechanism of action of sulfa drugs. Then what is the motive of the topic? So what sort of knowledge we can get after studying this topic? So majority or the major and important part of this topic as far as the organic chemistry student is considered is the synthesis of some drugs, which involves simple steps. So the motive of this topic is to create interest in the synthesizing new organic compounds. So this is about the scope and application of this topic pharmaceuticals. Now let's discuss the introductory part of this topic under the point introduction. So let me zoom initially this. In the beginning, Greek physician, namely Hippocrates, 460 BC, laid foundation of modern medicine, and he introduced concept of disease as pathological process. Thereafter, Swiss physician Paracelsus postulated life is a chemical process and ills of body can be overcome by chemicals, for example mercury, sulfur, iron, etc. Let me zoom again. Thereafter, a new development was occurred, and that is nothing but the discovery of chloroform as an anesthetic. This was one of the first success of modern medicine. In the due course, Paul Ehrlich introduced first time idea of chemotherapy. It involves treatment of infections with drugs to destroy pathogens without harming host body. So here let me clear the meaning of the word pathogen, the meaning of the word chemotherapy. So chemotherapy is nothing but the treatment of infections or diseases with the drugs to destroy pathogens without harming host body. Now what is meant by pathogens? So the disease causing microorganisms, maybe bacteria, fungi, viruses, all these microorganisms are considered as pathogens. Paul Ehrlich discovered many drugs such as acriflavin, atterbin, plasmocune, etc. And for his outstanding contribution, he is considered as a father of chemotherapy. However, the golden age began with the discovery of penicillin, which is called as a wonder drug, and this happened in 1941. Now, the second important point of this topic is classification of drugs. So if we consider the drugs available in the market, it becomes very difficult to classify these drugs by considering one base, by considering one point. Moreover, the attempts of classification have been made depending upon different bases. So there are different points on which the drugs have been classified. So these points or these bases are the classification. The first classification was based on the chemotherapeutic action. The second classification is based on structure of the drug. The third classification was based on the mode of action of the drugs, and the next classification was based on site of action. Site of action means after consuming the drug, what is the location of action, or at what site that a drug acts. That is nothing but the site of action, and that forms the basis of classification of drugs. So after considering all these classification, it has been concluded that no one classification was found to be satisfactory. Therefore, the classification of drugs was done on the therapeutic action as well as its structure. Now let us discuss this classification in short. So classification based on therapeutic action. So this forms two groups. The first one is functional drugs and the second one is chemotherapeutic agents. So under functional drugs, we have different subgroups, and these groups are mentioned here. The first one is CNS drugs. So what is the long form of CNS? Central nervous system drugs. The drugs which are related with the central nervous system, they are recognized as CNS drugs. Further, these CNS drugs have been subclassified as CNS stimulants, then tranquilizers, then hypnotics, then sedatives, then anticonvulsants, and last one is anesthetics. So the role of all these CNS drugs is to give relief to the central nervous system. And the difference in these drugs, CNS, tranquilizers, hypnotics, sedatives, anticonvulsants, and anesthetics, is in the concentration or the extent of dose or the percentage of dose. If we use a particular CNS drug in large amount or in higher concentration, that may act as a sedative. For example, if we consume sedatives in large CNS drugs in large quantities, it may result into the sedation or anesthesia. So this is about the CNS drugs. The second subclass of the functional drugs is analgesics. The third one is antipyretics. So antipyretics minimizes the temperature of the body. Then fourth one is antihistamine agents. Fifth one is anti-diabetics drugs. As you know, diabetes is the common disease nowadays, and it requires insulin treatment. So these drugs, insulin is called as anti-diabetic drug. The next one is anti-inflammatory drugs, and last one is the cardiac drugs. Cardiac drugs have further been classified as cardiotonic drugs, antihypertensive agents, sclerosing agents, vasodilators. Now there are different examples, or number of examples are there of these types of drugs. You should remember the representative examples of all these functional drugs. So this is the first group, which is called as functional drugs. Now let us consider the another group, and that is nothing but the chemotherapeutic agents. They are further subclassified as antiviral agents, then anti-neoplastic agents, third antiseptics, fourth antifungal agents, fifth one anti-malarials, which are used against malaria, then antibacterial and anti-leprosy drugs. The word itself indicates their use. Anthelmintics and anti-amoebic agents. So this is the broad classification which is based on therapeutic action. Now the next point is qualities of ideal drug. So what qualities the ideal drug must have? What qualities we expect from the ideal drug? So before that, let us define the term drug. Drug is a synthetic substance or natural product that prevent, treat, cure or diagnose the pathological condition of the recipient. So what is drug? It is a synthetic substance or natural product that prevent or cure or treat or diagnose the pathological condition of the recipient. So such compounds are called as drugs. Now what are the qualities of ideal drug? The first one is its action should be localized. So what is the meaning of this? When we consume drug against a particular disease, then it should go where it is required. It should reach at the site where the problem is there. So the drug should be localized one. And second quality of ideal drug, it should be bactericidal than bacteriostatic. So what is the mean by bactericidal and bacteriostatic? So bactericidal, if the disease causing microorganism, that is pathogen, is bacteria, then the bacteria or the drug which is used against these bacteria may be bactericidal or bacteriostatic. So bactericidal drug will kill the bacteria, whereas bacteriostatic drug will inhibit or stop the growth of bacteria. So the ideal drug must be a bactericidal or bactericidal than bacteriostatic. So it should kill the bacteria, and it should not only inhibit the growth of the bacteria. The third quality of ideal drug, its antimicrobial action should be selective and effective. So what is the meaning of this? Let me repeat the same quality. Its antimicrobial action should be selective and effective. In our body there are some microorganisms which are useful to our body, and if the person is having some disease and if we take drug against that disease, that drug should have antimicrobial action against the pathogens only. It should not kill the microorganisms which are useful to our body. So there are two types of bacteria in the body of the deceased person: the microorganisms which causes diseases, and some microorganisms which are useful to our body. So the drug should be able to differentiate, the drug should be able to select the pathogens from useful microorganisms, and it should act against the pathogens only, and it should not act on the useful microorganisms which to our body. So this is the meaning of this antimicrobial action should be selective. It should select only the pathogens, and it should act against these pathogens only. The quality number 4, it should not induce resistance. So generally it is observed that when we consume a particular drug for long period, that our body creates or induces resistance against that drug. That is, the effect of that drug minimizes as time passes. So this should not happen with the ideal drug. The ideal drug should not induce resistance in the body of human being. Number 5, it should be safe even if consumed in higher doses for longer time. So suppose we have a particular tablet, 250 milligram tablet dose per day. So if we consume more amount of that drug in multiple of 250 milligram, it should not create any problem to our body. So even if it is consumed in higher doses and longer period, it should be safe one. So that is the required quality of ideal drug. It should not be harmful even if it is taken in higher doses and for longer time. The next quality number 6, it should not be retained in body for longer time. Some diseases requires long drug treatment. So during this period, what happens? The drug shows side effects, or drug get accumulated in the body, and that creates side effects or that act on the other metabolic processes. So in such a case, what the ideal drug should do? The ideal drug should not be retained in the body for longer time. When it is used for proper work, when it is used against a particular disease, after curing that disease, it should not be retained. That drug should not be retained in our body. It should be drained out from the body. It should be thrown out from the body. So that is the quality of ideal drug. The last one, it should be efficient and cost effective. So this is common thing. The drug should be affordable, it should be efficient, it should work efficiently, it should give positive effects in short time, and it should not create any side effects. So it should be efficient and cost effective also. By considering all these qualities, and if we compare all these qualities with the present drugs, we will find no drug is ideal in every respect. So presently there is no one drug which acts as an ideal drug which follows all these qualities. So every drug must have some side effects. If you look at the prescription given by the doctors, we find particular among 5 to 6 drugs, 2 to 3 drugs will act against the diseases. Other drugs will be given to minimize, to control the side effects occurring due to the drugs. So this is the situation. So this is about the 3 points: introduction, classification, and the qualities of drugs. So regarding these 3 points, if you have any questions, you can ask me. In the second video, we will discuss the synthesis of some important drugs and their uses. Thank you very much.